Hello. Gautama Buddha is one of the great influential personalities in human history. Many regard him as the founder of Buddhism, one of the major schools of thought. Now, sometimes, such great personalities become a part of religious, political, and other forms of debate. One of the questions surrounding Buddha is related to his birth. As to where was he born? This is a huge, not just religious or political, but also nationalistic topic in the country of Nepal, the country in the Himalayas. Now, which society wouldn't want to claim such huge personality, who is also referred to as the light of Asia, as their own? So, was Buddha born in Nepal? It really matters how one approaches in answering the question. Let's look at this in a scientific way. Let physics get involved here. Well, like anything, being born is also an event. And events are the smallest parts that constitute the spacetime. Einstein taught us that the space that we exist in, that we are part of and that founds our existence, is the four-dimensional spacetime, where space and time aren't separated but intertwined and come together as spacetime. And any event is a point, or the smallest entity, that constitute the spacetime. Any event is a part of spacetime, not just of space or of time, but of a single entity called spacetime, where space and time cannot be separated, and which cannot be fragmented into separate spatial and separate temporal components. We cannot speak about space and time separately at this fundamental level. They're fundamentally connected or related by what we recognize as light, or speed of light. Any event is this smallest, single, unfragmentable entity or unit of spacetime. So Buddha's birth is also an event, and a part of spacetime, not just of space or of time, but of a single entity that is spacetime. Now the question is whether this event, Buddha's birth, was a part of what is referred to as Nepal. When we say Nepal, or any other country or political region, it is not just about its spatial geographic structure, but also temporal, that is historic, structure. So we cannot just consider a geographic location of a country or state but also its historical location. So its history must also be considered. Buddha was born around 6th to 4th century BCE. Buddha was born into an aristocratic family in the Shakya clan. Shakya were a clan of Iron Age India, 1st millennium BCE, inhabiting an area in Greater Magadh, situated at present-day southern Nepal in northern India, near the Himalaya. The Shakya formed an independent oligarchic republican state known as Sakya Ganarajya. Its capital was Kapilvastu, which may have been located either in present-day Tilorakot, Nepal or present-day Piprahawa, India. Gautam Buddha was the best-known Shakya. He was known in his lifetime as Siddhartha Gautam and Shakyamuni, sage of the Shakyas. He was the son of Suddhodana, the elected leader of the Sakya Ganarajya. The Shakyas were an eastern sub-Himalayan ethnic group on the periphery, both geographically and culturally, of the eastern Indian subcontinent in the 5th century BCE. Bronkhorst calls this eastern culture Greater Magadh. The Shakyas are mentioned in later Buddhist texts as well, including the Mahabhastu, Buddhaghosa, and Sumangal Vilayasini, mostly in the accounts of the birth of the Buddha, and as descendants of the legendary king Ikshabaku. The Shakir Republic functioned as an oligarchy, ruled by an elite council of the warrior and ministerial class that chose its leader. According to the Mahabhastu and the Lalitbistar Sutra, the seat of the Shakya administration was the Samthgar, Assembly Hall, at Kapilvastu. A new building for the Shakya Samthgar was constructed at the time of Gautam Buddha, which was inaugurated by him. The highest administrative authority was the Siddharth, comprising 500 members, which met in the Samthgar to transact any important business. The Shakya Parisad was headed by an elected Raja, who presided over the meetings. By the time of Siddhartha's birth, the Shakya Republic had become a vassal state of the larger kingdom of Kosal, which was an ancient Indian kingdom with a rich culture, corresponding the area with the region of Awadh, in present-day Uttar Pradesh to western Odisha. The Shakyas were by tradition sun worshippers, who called themselves Adhika Nama Gotina, kinsmen of the sun and descendants of the sun, as Buddha states in the Sutta Nipat. They are of the sun lineage, Adhikagota, Shakyans by birth. Now let's talk about history of Nepal. Although very little is known about the early history of Nepal as of now, legends and documented references reach far back to the 30th century BC. Also, the presence of historical sites such as the Valmiki Ashram indicates the presence of Sanatan, ancient Hindu culture in parts of Nepal at that period. According to legendary accounts, the early rulers of Nepal were the Gopalbamsi, or Gopal Banksha, or Cowherd dynasty, who presumably ruled for about 5 centuries. They are said to have been followed by the Mahispal Dynasty or Buffalo Herder dynasty, established by a Yadav named Bul Singh. The Shakya clan formed an independent oligarchic republican state known as the Shakya Ganrajya during the late Vedic period, circa 1000 to 500 BCE, and the later so-called Second Urbanization period, circa 600 to 200 BCE, with Kapilvastu as its capital. The Mahispal dynasty was a dynasty established by a Ahir that ruled the Kathmandu Valley. They took control of Nepal after replacing the Gopal dynasty. 3 kings of Mahispal dynasty ruled the valley before they were overthrown by the Kirat dynasty. By defeating the last king of the Ahir dynasty Bhuawan Singh in a battle, Kirati king Yaluing or Yalumber had taken the regime of the valley under his control, around the 6th century BC, or 8th century BC by some accounts, delineating the area between the Sun Koshi and Tama Koshi rivers as their native land. The list of Kirati kings is also given in the Gopal genealogy. After Kirat, came the Licchavi dynasty. They were originally from Vaishali in modern-day India, and ruled the Kathmandu Valley by defeating the last Kirati king, Kigu. According to Gopal genealogy, Galas, according to the language genealogy, and Gasti, according to rite genealogy. It is mentioned in some genealogies and Purans that the Suryabamsi Kshatriyas had established a new regime by defeating the Kirats. Now, with time came other dynasties leading to Shah dynasty, and then to modern-day Nepal. The question we should ask is, what was the political extent of what we referred to as Nepal back then? From what we have seen by looking at the history of Nepal till now, it is quite evident that Nepal was referred to the region primarily the Kathmandu Valley and centered around Kathmandu Valley. The derivation of the word Nepal is the subject of a number of theories. The Sanskrit word Nepalaya means, at the foot of the mountains, or, abode at the foot. Nepal may be derived from this. The Tibetan word Niampal means holy land. Nepal may be derived from it. According to Hindu texts, Nepal derives its name from an ancient Hindu sage called Ne, referred to variously as Ne Muni or Nemi. According to Pashupati Puran, as a place protected by Ne, the country in the heart of the Himalayas came to be known as Nepal. According to Nepal Mahatmya, Nemi was charged with protection of the country by Pashupati. According to Buddhist legend, the deity Manjushri drained the water from Nagdaha, a lake that is believed to have filled the Kathmandu Valley. The valley became habitable and was ruled by Buktaman, a cowherder, who took advice from a sage named Ne. Pala means protector or taking care, so Nepal reflected the name of the sage who took care of the place, according to Nepali scholar Rishikesh Shaha. Now to understand the ancient extent of Nepal, we must know about Kathmandu Valley in the past. Historically, the valley and adjoining areas made up a confederation known as the Nepal Mandala. Until the 15th century, Bhaktapur was its capital, when 2 other capitals, Kathmandu and Lalitpur, or Patan, were established. Note that Kathmandu as in Kathmandu Valley, and Kathmandu as in Kathmandu District are different. Kathmandu City, or District, is a part of the Kathmandu Valley, just like Bhaktapur and Lalitpur are parts of the Kathmandu Valley. Until the 1960s, the Kathmandu Valley was known as Nepala Valley or Nepal Valley. In 1961 the valley listed as Kathmandu District, which began referring the valley as Kathmandu Valley. The term Nepa Valley is still used among Newar people and local governments, while senior citizens still tend to refer the valley as Nepal. The term Swanaga, in Nepal Bhasa, is used to refer to 3 cities namely Yen, Kathmandu, Yala, Lalitpur, and Kuapa, Bhaktapur. The Pahadi name Kathmandu comes from a structure in the Darbar Square called by the Sanskrit name Kasta Mandap, which means wooden shelter. The Kathmandu Valley may have been inhabited as early as 300 BCE. The Lichabis, whose earliest inscriptions date to 464, were the next rulers of the valley and had close ties with the Gupta Empire of India. The The Mallas ruled the Kathmandu Valley and the surrounding area from the 12th until the 18th century CE, when the Shah dynasty of the Gorkha kingdom under Prithvi Narayan Shah conquered the valley as he created present-day Nepal. His victory in the Battle of Kirtipur was the beginning of his conquest of the valley. The present-day extension of Nepal was initiated by Prithvi Narayan Shah. But before that, the extension of Nepal was the extension of confederation known as the Nepal Mandala. Nepal Mandala is an ancient confederation on the Indian subcontinent, marked by cultural, religious and political boundaries which lies in present-day central Nepal. It consisted of the Kathmandu Valley and surrounding areas. The rule of the indigenous Newar in Nepal Mandala ended with its conquest by the Gorkha kingdom and the rise of the Shah dynasty in 1768 AD. According to the outline history of Nepal, the area that we today identify as present-day Nepal consisted of three kingdoms during the early medieval period: Khas in the west, Karntak in the south and Nepal Mandala in the center and Kirat in the east. Bhaktapur was the capital of Nepal Mandala until the 15th century CE, when three capitals including Kathmandu and Lalitpur were established. The term Mandala also means a country, and it has been used to represent traditional political formations such as Federation of Kingdoms. The area comprising of Kathmandu, Lalitpur, Bhaktapur and Dholka during the Malla period is generally known as Nepal Mandala. The Buddhist text Manjushri Mool Kalpa has mentioned Mandev, reigned 464 AD to 506 AD, as being the king of Nepal Mandala. The term Nepal Mandala also appears in the popular Buddhist text, Swayambhu Puran. It occurs in a stone inscription at Gyaneshwar, Kathmandu, dating from the 8th century during the reign of Licchavi king Jaydev II. Legends also speak about the fact that old Kirati kings offered the throne of the Mandala to the Shakya clan, the clan attributed to the origins of Buddhism and to which the Buddha belonged. According to the outline history of Nepal, Nepal Mandala was situated between the Khas and Simrangad kingdoms. Western travelers in the late 18th century have written that Nepal's borders extended to Tibet in the north, the nation of the Kirat in the east, the kingdom of Makwanpur in the south and the Trishuli River in the west, which separated it from the kingdom of Gorkha. In 1661 AD, Jesuit fathers Johann Gruber and Albert Dorval traveled from Tibet to India through Nepal. They mentioned in their report that they passed through Kuthi, the first town in the kingdom of Nekbal, Nepal, and arrived in Kathmandu, the capital of Nekbal. From Kathmandu, a journey of 5 days brings one to Hedota, a market town in the kingdom of Maranga. The town of Hedota is known as Hetauda today. The extent of Nepal Mandala has been traditionally defined by the locations of 64 Hindu and 24 Buddhist pilgrimage sites. The Hindu shrines consist of 64 Shiva lingas scattered from Brahmeshwar in Nuwakot district in the west to Vimeshwar in Dhalka district in the east. The 24 Buddhist pilgrimage sites are spread from the Trishuli River in the west to Dulalghat in the east. When seen as an ordered pattern, they form the picture of the mandala of Chakrasambhara, the principal deity of Vajrayana Buddhism. Francis Buchanan Hamilton has written in an account of the Kingdom of Nepal, published in 1819, that 4 pilgrimage spots marked the boundaries of Nepal proper: Nilkanta, an 8-day journey north from Kathmandu; Nateshwar, 3 days to the south; Karleshwar, 2 days to the west; and Vimeshwar, 4 days to the east, and this was in 1819 AD. So the point is, the modern-day form of Nepal, and the extension that includes the Lumbini region, didn't exist back then, and definitely not during the time of Buddha or Shakya Ganarajya during the BCE era. Shakya Ganarajya existed as an independent oligarchic republican state. Obviously, if you talk about the region now, it definitely falls within the territory of modern-day Nepal. But that wasn't the case back then, and definitely not during Buddha's birth or Buddha's time. Just like people born in modern-day Lumbini cannot be called a citizen of Shakya Ganarajya, and will be referred to as Nepali, people born back then cannot be referred to as Nepali, but as a citizen of Shakya Ganarajya. Buddha was not born in Nepal back then, and definitely not in Nepal at the present time. It's not just the spatial location that matters, it is its temporal location that equally does. Temporal location should also be taken into account when we consider an event. So, Buddha was born in Shakya Ganarajya. This does not mean that he was born in modern-day India. He was neither born in modern-day Nepal, nor in ancient Nepal nor in modern-day India. Buddha was born in a political structure of his time or period, and that is Shakya Ganarajya. Now, does that mean you born in the past Nepal, or any country for that matter, cannot claim the citizenship of his or her present-day nation? That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? That's not what is implied here. That would be a misunderstanding. Ask yourself, was the present political structure of your country intact when you were born? Did the political boundary of your country change, and does it not include your birthplace? For example, Crimea is now a part of Russia, whereas it was a part of Ukraine. So, people of Crimea are now Russians, not Ukrainians, and that's what their formal documents will be made to tell. Everything is subject to time, and political structures are no exceptions. To be precise, everything is a subject to spacetime, because everything is an event in spacetime. I know this is not just an issue subject to scientific analysis in a regular use of the word scientific, and I know it falls more on a political and emotional domain. But even political and emotional domains are subject to science, and to spacetime. Science is about truth, and truth isn't hesitant in presenting itself. Another argument that can be put forth is that, though Siddhartha Gautama was born in Shakya Ganarajya, he attained enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, a place in Bihar state of modern-day India. Siddhartha became Buddha after attaining enlightenment. So, essentially, Buddha came into being in Bodh Gaya, and hence was born in Bodh Gaya. But the initial argument is sufficient, and one can say that Buddha was born in the Shakya Ganarajya, not anywhere else. Thanks for your time, folks.